no one, not even the TarValon Talks team, is ready to talk about this one. We're bracing ourselves to discuss episode 6 of season 2 of The Wheel of Time. We're going to start this intro off with the trigger warning. The discussion of episode 6 will include mention of psychological and physical torture. And as always, we do have a spoiler warning. This episode will contain spoilers for both the TV show and the book series. So here it goes. Here we have Doll, Dianna, and Fenya diving into episode 6 of season 2 of The Wheel of Time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a hard one. That was really, really hard to watch.
Yeah, are we all doing okay after that episode?
Yeah, I think so.
I actually think that dark as it is, and it is a really dark episode, it's my favorite so far this season.
It was really well done.
Yeah, like it was incredibly well acted. It felt very cohesive in a way that some of the earlier seasons, some of the earlier episodes haven't to me. And it was like I couldn't look away. I mean, it kind of partially in a horrifying kind of way, but also just in a really compelling TV show kind of way.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree with that. Like, so I've in preparation for this podcast finally got myself to rewatch the episode like right before we were recording. And like a lot of this episode is like little flashes of scenes. I think that there's like some really good moments. Everything with Egwene and Rena in this episode is incredible. Everything with Rand and Lanfear and Matt is incredible. And I have some questions about what's going on with Moiraine and Lan. It was great to see Swan again. I'm just gonna like review everything up at the top. It was great to see Swan again. I still have questions about that though. Like there are parts of this episode that are super amazing, and then there are parts of this episode that do feel still pretty disjointed to me, and kind of like I thought we were gonna have more movement on this plotline by episode 6 of an 8-episode season. But that is my high level thought.
I think that's fair.
Also, as an Egwene fangirl, like unapologetic Egwene fangirl, she is maybe my favorite character in the book. She is definitely my favorite female character. Like, I knew that this part was going to be hard, but oh my god, this episode was hard to watch. Like, I was in tears by the end of it.
The end broke me.
Yeah.
So do we want to start at the top then?
Yeah, which is not a fun place to start, because we start just right away with Rena, the Soul Dom, dragging Egwene into her Damane cell and like telling Egwene how being a Domine works. She can't hurt Rena. She can't remove the Autumn. She is not a person anymore. Although Rena is so kind and will let Egwene keep her name, unlike in the books.
I kept waiting for her to take it away as a punishment.
Me too.
I think it makes sense as a change, though. It makes sense for Egwene to keep her name in the show, because for non-book readers who are watching it, like they're just going to get confused by all of these new names showing up. I know I would. So I think that's an easy thing that they can just excise.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it. I felt like this episode did a really good job of showing like how horrific being a Damane is for people from the Westlands, and like in particular for Egwene. And like, yes, taking her name would have been like an additional part of that, but it doesn't feel like it was necessary for like the episode to drive home its point. So I agree with you. I'm not like, how dare they make her keep her name?
Yeah. No.
I also liked that like it showed that Rena was a kind Soul Dom, and that like this is what kindness looks like from a Soul Dom perspective.
That actor that plays Rena, like, she legit looked psycho. Mm-hmm. And when she was talking about how...
Sorry, quick interruption. I think that they use they, them pronouns.
She uses she, they, he. I checked their Instagram
okay.
Earlier today or yesterday.
Thank you. They just had this completely deranged look on their face when speaking about how, unlike other Soul Doms, I believe we should cultivate our friendship. And it was almost, God, that's almost scarier than someone who is outright mean.
Yeah.
I mean, Rena thinks that they're being kind.
Yeah.
Like, Rena thinks that this is a totally normal thing to do, and that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the actors, Celia Mendez-Jones, which is who I really wanted them to have play Galad. But this is
that would have
fine.
been amazing.
This is a very different role, but this is also fine. But they and Madden make this episode work. Like their chemistry, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And like
Well, it is chemistry.
it is a type of chemistry, like the way that they play off of each other in every scene, that like Renna is like very like at first very like calm, very kind, incredibly condescending because she doesn't see Egwene as human.
No.
And then Madden like standing up, but also like her physical acting every time she's being tortured by the Adon like was incredible. Like give Madden an Emmy nom / award for this episode.
Honestly, yes.
She deserves it. Sheila Mendez-Jones deserves, like, the two of them carry this episode. And if this episode hadn't landed, like this season I don't think works.
Yeah, this driving home the just how cruel the Shan are. Like, we've seen their casual cruelty with, just wiping out villages and throwing tsunamis at little girls. But the hierarchy of people all the way down to where the Domine are not human and, the high blood are God. Like, it kind of, it gives you that gravitas of all of it in a way that if this hadn't landed, I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to like piggyback off of that, jumping somewhat ahead in the episode, like we see that also at Lady Serath's party where Loial and Ingtar are like serving her guests. She's having this like party in her rooms because she still can't go to court. And like she is so like she has full command and full control over that room and over Loial and Ingtar, and she's like showing off that she has like an Ogier servant and like makes him tree sing like essentially as like a party trick.
Yeah.
Which sort of backfires on her because like that party seemed very lively, like it was very funny, like they were like everyone was like laughing and blah blah blah. And then when he starts tree singing, like at first they're laughing at him, but it's a very moving thing to see someone sing at like a bonsai tree and like see it grow.
Especially considering that he, unlike probably the Ogier from Shan, who grew up in that system, Loial obviously holds this tree singing as sacred and still holds on to those old ways, and it was hurting him so much to do it.
Yeah, it really, Serath miscalculated, brought down the vibes of her party, for sure. And she notices that and she like claps and she's like, that's enough, but like, haha, this is so funny. And then she starts joking about how she's going to give the sung tree to Turok and like sends Loial off. And as Ingtar and Loial are walking away, Ingtar is like, I found the horn. It's like barely guarded. They clearly no one in the society thinks that they would steal it from Turok. And he's like perplexed by that. But the kennels where Egwene is kept and the other demonic are incredibly well guarded. And so Ingtar seems to think that like it's not worth saving her, which makes sense. Ingtar has like maybe seen her for like 1 second.
I mean, strategically, he's probably right.
Yeah.
Emotionally, no.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't agree with this. And I'm on Loial. Loial is like, we are getting Egwene.
Oh no, broader scale. It is important to save her, but they don't know that.
They don't know that. Yeah.
They're not omniscient. They don't know how important she is to the last battle.
Based on the information they have at hand.
Right. And based on the information they have on hand, she's just a young girl who would have been an Aes Sedai.
Also, of course, Ingtar wouldn't want to save her because that would go against Ishamael.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oops.
I like completely forgot about that until just now. Like
forgot where his loyalties lie.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes total sense that he is not interested at all in saving her. Speaking of the Forsaken. So one thing I really appreciate about this episode is that most of the time when it's like, here's this really hard scene with Egwene, it is then followed up by a scene that is in some ways full of joy. And so we cut from Egwene being like the initial torture scene with her to Rand being tied to the wheel and Lanfear and just more shirtless Yosha, please and thank you. That man looks so good.
Oh, okay. I was like, where's the joy in this scene?
Oh, the joy is in how stunning and sexy they both are. They look so good.
That throne that Lanfear was sitting on and the headdress and everything, just it
I can't really take Lanfear seriously in that outfit.
I hate the hat.
So much eye makeup.
I hate the hat. I think everything else looks great. The hat makes her look like she's wearing like a baby bonnet. I'm like, girl, this isn't quite the vibe I think that you're going for.
See, to me, I think it looks more like Mucha. Am I saying that name right? The artist, with the goddess,
I don't think I know it.
Clearly, none of us are art people.
Yeah, no.
You know what they are, like, if you've seen them. It's Alphonse Mucha. He was the Art Nouveau.
Okay, I do actually know that name, to be fair.
I do not, because I am very much not an art person.
I'm gonna link to one. Like,
Oh, okay.
oh, you found it?
I do know these. I did not know that was this artist.
Yeah, like the whole thing, just like the Art Nouveau and the hair and the crown, even the headdress kind of looks like one of the backdrops, and it all just screams Mucha Girl.
It would be very evocative of the season 1 opener, or like opening sequence, because at least I think all of the Aes Sedai have a sort of like halo thing around their heads in that opening sequence. But I mean, this just doesn't look like a halo to me. It doesn't look like a halo. It doesn't look like horns. It doesn't look like a crown. Like, it's really giving baby bonnet, which on top of like a full dominatrix outfit is just confusing.
It's an odd choice.
Yeah.
Not really seeing baby bonnet. I'm still seeing like Elizabethan head bonnet, not baby bonnet.
I think it's because it's like it goes forward.
Maybe.
Kind of baby bonnet-esque. But I also think that Elizabethan bonnets look like baby bonnets, so glad we moved away from that fashion.
What it kind of reminds me of, actually, is classic Doctor Who Time Lord wear. Because
the most Fenya take I have ever heard.
It is. But the classic Who Time Lords have these big collars. Granted, most of them are red. I don't think they go for black necessarily, but that's what it reminds me of.
If this was a collar, that would totally work for me, because then that would be like Elizabethan, like collar crown type of situation. But just, I don't know. Anyway.
Okay.
Lanfear is gonna haunt my dreams tonight because I critiqued her fashion sense. She like takes Rand off of the wheel. She unties him from the wheel. No, thank you. Please put him back, so that he can trust her, or to like show him that he can trust her. And then she like lays out basically like Ishamael's whole plan to him. She's like, "Oh, your friends aren't here. You isolated yourself from them, and now he's gonna kidnap that, or take all of them and turn them to the dark side." And like, he is like, well, tell me where they are. Like, help me. And she calls him Luz. Ugh.
It's his name. But also, Fenya just posted a picture of the Time Lord, and she's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, are Time Lords that different from the Forsaken when you really think about it? Like,
No.
long-lived, can kind of, like, rebirth themselves in a way. Like, the Forsaken are just Time Lords. It's canon.
Committed war crimes.
Yeah.
Same sense of fashion.
Same sense of fashion.
Oh, incredible.
Anyway, back to Rand.
Back to you. Yeah. Rand, shirtless Rand, like, stepping up to Lanfear, like, definitely seems to, like, get her going. She's like, oh, okay, like, I can work with this. And to which I say, go get it, girl. Like, I want to really emphasize that I truly cannot stand Lanfear in the books. And for all of the people who are like, oh, I really hated Leandrin in the books, but I like her in the show, that is my journey with Lanfear. Like, I'm really liking her in the show. I'm really loving the way that Natasha O'Keeffe is playing her. Like, she's slightly more subtle. She's slightly more, like, seems sort of on Rand's side.
A little more competent.
Very much more competent. It's hard to get less competent than Lanfear in the books. And also just like really not giving crazy ex-girlfriend energy in the same way. Yet. But I mean, the Lanfear in the show got Rand to fall in love with her. Like, that's way better than Lanfear in the books ever did.
Yeah. Once
Rand has Lanfear's whole plan, presumably, he wakes up and tells Moiraine that he has to leave to protect her from Lanfear. And like, also one of the things that Lanfear did in the dream world is she told Rand the like basically kind of Moiraine's entire plan of like bringing Logan to Cairhien, and like, you know, she's like, why are you in Cairhien now? Like, you've still been doing everything that she wants you to do. And so he seems like he's simultaneously trying to protect Moiraine, but also is incredibly suspicious of her.
Mm-hmm.
And so he like calls her out for all of her continued suspicious behavior towards him, and then leaves. And we cut to Matt and Min, who are in the Foregate. There's more Trolloc puppets, which is very cool.
Yeah, that the whole carnival thing is going on, and you see the puppets and everything, and lots of drunk revelers dancing around. They've really done a good job of making the Foregate like look good.
Yeah, they're really like trying to keep the sense of the Foregate from the books and like bring it into the show and really make it real. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So now we've like Min and Matt are in Cairhien, and Rand is in Cairhien. So like soon they will probably link up.
Soon.
I realize in looking at my notes that this episode, more so than kind of the others, does a thing that doesn't work for me in shows, which is that it feels like it jumps us into the beginning of a conversation and then like kind of has us leave before the like meat of the conversation actually happens. So it does it to that, or it does that to us kind of with like Lanfear and Rand. Like, she's like, oh, he's like, tell me everything that Ishamael is doing, and then she's like, okay, and then we jump to Rand waking up. And like kind of the same thing with Matt and Min. Like, yes, it grounds us in that like they're in the Foregate, but then Matt like wanders away, and Min is like, where are you going? And he's like, come on. And then we cut away from them, and it's like, this scene is helpful as a grounding scene, but like there's nothing actually happening here.
Yeah, but like with Rand and Lanfear, we really need 5 minutes of her telling her everything we already know.
No. And definitely not because we get exposition later. It's more that like it was in my notes. This happens a ton. This happens in like basically every scene, especially in the first half of this episode. Like then later on, we start to like actually get the meat of the conversations. But I'm like, for some of these scenes, I didn't need to be grounded. For some of these scenes, like if I'm watching the show, I already know where we are. Like I already know what these characters are doing. So like you can just jump me into the middle of the conversation. Like I'll be fine.
I think that part of that, though, is because you're so familiar with what's going on. And so this is more helpful for a newer viewer who doesn't have that deep grounding in the events that you do.
Yeah. If they hadn't done these establishing shots, someone who didn't read the books and didn't know kind of the run of events, they might not have understood quite as much where they were and what was going on.
Yeah, that could be. I think I feel it the most with Elaine and Nynaeve. There's like a lot of setup scenes that I feel like could have been one scene, but we'll get there. Well, actually, no, we won't get there because we're there in my notes.
They maybe could have done a little less jumping around, but it's...
I still think that it's giving you information that you know, but that other viewers don't.
Yeah. I think it worked for me better on the first time through, and it might work better for me. I personally think the show is much better marathoned than coming out all at once. I want it to continue to come out, or coming out one at a time. Like, I want them to continue to release the episodes this way for season 3, because I think it maintains hype for the show, which is what I want more than anything else, so that we can get all 8 seasons that Rafe has planned out. But I think when rewatching this episode in isolation, I was sort of like, all right, like, you know, I kind of yada at a lot of scenes. I'm like, we can keep going. But I think watching it the first time, it is helpful to kind of have the show establish where we are, and then watching it in marathon, I don't think it'll feel quite as like time wasty almost. And like in a 70-minute episode, there's a lot of time to fill, but I am also like keenly aware of what we haven't done yet in the show, and we're on episode 6. So I'm like, Do we need all of this? I don't know.
They're leaving a lot for those last 2 episodes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're not leaving where's Tyr? Where's Bane and Chiad?
We're not going to Tyr yet. We're not getting to Tyr this season.
We've already seen the stone in some of the promo stuff that they did for season 2.
Was it the stone, or was it Turok's palace, or was it the kennels?
That's a good point. I would want to go back and watch the videos. It still felt like the stone. I could be totally wrong.
Mm-hmm. I think we were.
But also Rafe has said, like, I think he kept being like, this show or this season is going to be books 2 and 3. And so far it's like been book 2.
I don't remember books 2 and 3 independently enough to have anything to say about that.
know if it was going to end at the end of book 3. I don't think we're going to get 2 here. I really don't.
Then I'm curious how we are going to do book 4 in season 3, which is like, from what I remember of reading preseason stuff, it was season 2 is book 2 and 3. Season 3 is book 4, like fully book 4, which makes sense because a ton of stuff happens there. And like a bunch of the tier stuff can be shortened because most of book 3 is just them getting to tier. But like, I just like we talked about in the run up to season 2, like I have questions about pacing. Like I have worries because I am a fan and I want this to work.
We'll see.
I think that, yes, I have worries about what's going to happen in the future, but what we've seen so far has, like, I don't necessarily have worries about that, if that makes sense. Like, it's generic worry, not specific worry. Because the season so far, I think, has been really good.
I think this season has been incredible. Like, I would not do anything different except more episodes. And add the title card back or the opener back in. Like, we could have those 30 seconds back. It's okay. But like, I love this season, to be clear. It's like, I don't have any criticisms with what they have done so far. I'm more like, where are we going? And that's why I think this episode will work better on marathon too, because I'll know the destination. So I'll be more on board with the journey. Anyway.
Yep. Back to Nynaeve and Elaine. And they're sitting there arguing about trusting Rima while her warder Basin is sitting there looking like right in front of him. And it just seems funny.
No one ever accused them of being particularly smart all the time.
Or subtle.
Or subtle.
These are not, especially Nynaeve and Elaine are not team subtlety. Like in doing so, they like tell Rima about Leandrin kidnapping them, about breaking the 3 oaths. Like they reveal that the Black Ajah is a thing without even really realizing it, because they hadn't been given the Black Ajah, the hunt for the Black Ajah by Swan, had they?
No.
Okay. In the books. Sorry, not in the show.
Oh, in the books, I don't remember when they get that.
I think they do, because that was the conceit that got them to leave the tower, and then Leandrin took them to Valma instead.
That's right, yeah. Although, or do they get it when they come back? Because after Falm, they go back to the tower, and then they leave again, right?
Yeah, but I think they had gotten it before, because when they come back is when they recruit the other Aes Sedai into it, and they sort of take over in the tower.
Okay.
Because that's when they start making people re-swear the oath.
They don't do that. That's
No, that's what I'm saying. The other Aes Sedai start doing that. So like when they go back, they recruit the Aes Sedai to help.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the timeline that well.
Yeah. This is why we need to do a reread.
I thought that particular event that you're talking about, Doll, happens like a lot later on in the series.
Yeah, that part does. But when they go back to the tower is when they recruit those Aes Sedai to help them. Because like the Swan gives them the thing while they're in Falm, they come back and then she's almost immediately dethroned. And in that time period, they had started talking to the other Aes Sedai about the hunt for the Black Ajah.
Yeah.
And then they end up going off to Saladar with it.
They go to Tyr first.
Well, they go to Tyr and then Saladar.
So they have never heard of the Black Ajah before. This is the first mention that any of the Wonder Girls are going to hear of the Black Ajah. But this is, I'm totally okay with this being how they find out. Like this makes a lot more sense from a cohesion perspective, like a fluid storytelling perspective, in the show. And like, it's important that like Rema seems really concerned. Like she is like, oh shoot, if the Black Ajah are a real thing and in the tower, like all of the Aes Sedai are in danger. We are all in danger. I'm going to stick with them for a second because there is a bunch of jumping around, but I feel like all of their scenes are very cohesive together.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, Rema comes back again to Nynaeve and Elaine arguing. They argue so much in this episode. They are constantly fighting.
But if they weren't, would we get Nynaeve's incredible line about how she's not pacing, she's investigating?
No, it's true.
Not pacing, I'm investigating.
Also, at one point, she's like, Elaine, you have other responsibilities. You're the daughter of Andor, and Elaine's like, oh, now you care that I'm the daughter heir. Now that you're trying to get rid of me. I loved that, like, quick comeback from Elaine. Just like their banter is amazing, and I hope they keep it up forever.
Yeah.
Remma comes back and tells them that she's spoken to a ship's captain who will take them out of the city. Is this a Bail Domon reference, perhaps?
I have to assume it was Bail.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, same. I hope so. But Elaine and Nynaeve are steadfast and adamant that they will not leave the city until they save Egwene. Elaine says it's because Egwene was her first friend, and I'm pretty sure Elaine is 19 or 20, which is so sad. Morghese, let your daughter make friends, please.
I mean, in a lot of ways, even if she had quote-unquote friends, they wouldn't have really been her friends because they would have been the daughter heir's friends.
Yeah.
And I can see how, even if she had people that were friendly with her and were, went to classes or even played with her, they would have played with her as her subjects. And Egwene treated her as an equal. And I think that's the difference. It was the first person who treated her as a friend and not as the daughter heir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, Egwene clearly is not impressed by her being the daughter heir. Like, she doesn't give a fuck. And I think Elaine really appreciates that.
She has no fuck.
Yeah. She's like, oh, someone who treats me as a person, not the daughter heir. How nice. Although it's clearly less nice when she has to deal with Nynaeve, who's doing basically the same thing. She's like, you could maybe be nicer to me. I am still the daughter heir. Remma tasks the Elaine and Nynaeve and herself with figuring out how to open up the Adom collar and bracelet. If they can't do that, they can't rescue Egwene. And we get this like cool scene of them. This is another thing where like she says that and then we cut away. So in the next scene where we cut to them again, they're channeling very slightly to study it. And Elaine, who has the talent for ter'angreal from what I remember from the books, is the one who like identifies it doesn't have a seam, and like they can't figure out how to open it. Like it's not clear.
Something I really appreciated about this scene, we haven't quite gotten to it in your description of it, but eventually like Nynaeve in a burst of power figures it out, and that burst of power is a problem. But I really appreciated that we see, you've been pronouncing it Remma? I've always thought it was Rima.
In the show, they would say, like, it's like Rima.
Yeah.
Like...
yeah, I don't actually remember how they pronounce it in the show. I just know how it's spelled.
Pronunciation is a fluid thing in Wheel of Time.
It's true. But we see her explain to Nynaeve a way to channel that Nynaeve understands. And I think this is the first time that we see Nynaeve intentionally channel.
Yes, 100%.
It is really nice. Before we get that, Remma kind of discusses the mission that the Aes Sedai were on when they came to Falm, that they had heard of strange beasts. First Grom mention, maybe. We only have seen Grom in carvings on the ships. We haven't actually seen them in person, but I'm hoping we'll see them in episode 7 or 8. And also she shows off the rings of the Aes Sedai. One was blue, one was green, one was brown?
It was really dark, I couldn't tell.
It was very dark, whatever it was. I'm going to go with brown because the Black Ajah don't have rings, but it looked like a black stone. But I'm going to guess that it was brown. And so the brown sister and the green sister were killed and the blue sister was captured. She's a sitter of the Blue Ajah. At this point in the episode, we have already heard Megan's accent because she is Egwene's next door cellmate.
You heard her accent. I just heard somebody muttering.
Okay.
I did not pick up on the accent until the last scene.
Yeah. So if you listen closely, it's like the slightly Scottish accent. And this episode, if you watch the episode preview, is very helpful because they show the scene where Megan says that is talking to Moiraine and she says she's going to go west. So the show does kind of try to prime you to like be like, remember Megan? And as soon as they showed that, I was like, I don't want to remember Megan. I don't want her to get captured, even though we knew that was what was going to happen to her.
I mean, I knew it was Megan from the Blue Sitter part. I didn't hear the accent. It didn't occur to me that it was an Aes Sedai next cell over.
Mm.
Mhm.
I'm pretty, we haven't quite gotten to that scene yet, but I'm pretty sure it's essential that Egwene recognizes that it's a Westland accent and not like the Shan-Chan / American accent.
It could have just been somebody from Falm that got collared because they collared a bunch of women from Falm.
Yeah, but like it's important that it is a Westland accent, so that's why she tries to make friends with them instead of just like another Shan-Chan Damane. So, but yeah, it is indeed Megan, which we see at the end of the episode, which is so sad. It's so sad. Not satisfying. So sad.
Yeah.
Yes. Rema says it's a sister of the Blue Ajah, sitter of the Blue Ajah, and that they were friends. Later on, she's also going to give the Wonder Girls these rings. And I was like, yes, they're still going to get Aes Sedai rings, answering one of my biggest questions from the show of, just because Nynaeve has an accepted ring, how is she going to pretend to be Aes Sedai now that they have stones? Hopefully they won't just give these rings away again like Egwene did with the rings that she got in the last season that I was sure were going how she was going to pretend to be an Aes Sedai, but you know.
But I think that Elaine and Nynaeve are much more scheming than Egwene is in this specific respect. Because, like, it makes sense that Egwene is going to give the rings back to the Aes Sedai because she wants to impress them. She wants to become an Aes Sedai. Like, you know, she's trying to do things by the books. And Nynaeve and Elaine are like, no, we're going to use everything we have to get you out of here.
Yeah.
We're going to keep these because we know something's wrong with the tower. Obviously, there's something wrong with the situation that they're trying to fix. So I don't think they're going to give them up.
Yeah. At the time when Egwene gave them to the Amyrlin, she just thought she was going to be in the tower, and like that was the end of it. You know, Rand was off with Moiraine or whatever.
Yeah.
She didn't know that they were going to leave. She didn't know that she was going to, you know, get kidnapped and collared. Like, that naivety is gone. So at this point, though, I don't see them, and I don't know. They may not even go back to the tower at this point.
I don't think they would. I don't know what plot point reason there would be for them to go back at this point. Like, they have effectively accomplished everything that they needed to from the tower plots from the books already.
Yeah.
And it saves so much time to just have them go straight to Tyr, and then do the Egwene plot going forward after Tyr and the Nynaeve and Elaine plot going forward after Tyr, which I'm going to keep vague for minimal spoilers. And like they don't ever need to go back to the tower other than, you know, late book stuff for certain characters. So yeah, and like Fenya mentioned, Nynaeve channels a big burst of energy, which is a problem. I hadn't quite gotten there in my rewatch, but this entire time Rema has been like, we have to channel very, very little because the Shan-Chan have Soldam and Damane going through the city. They're trying to sense for women who can channel, and so if we channel a ton, like they'll easily be able to find us. So when Nynaeve channels this like big burst of spirit, it immediately brings the Shan-Chan down on them. Rema selflessly sacrifices herself to keep the Wonder Girls safe. She and her warder go out to challenge the Shan-Chan. And there is a pretty epic battle.
Epic. So epic.
Yeah. It is crazy. And like Nynaeve and Elaine just have to like watch in silence. Like at one point, Elaine even like puts her hand over Nynaeve's mouth as Rema just like at first they're kind of like balanced, kind of holding their own. And then Rema's warder gets killed and she goes crazy and uses the one power as a weapon, but I'm presuming it's in the last defense of her life and her warders, so it seems okay.
Well, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, she definitely knew that she was going to, if she didn't do anything, she was going to get captured.
And they killed her warder, so she was
feeling threatened.
And like, I think, Fenya, you shared a tweet that the official Wheel Time, was that from the official account? Or
No, so that was the Watt series Twitter account, which had dug up or redug up information on the actress who gets killed. And she's a contortionist. So like this scene that they do where Rema is using the one power to like crumple up their bodies. Like she actually does that. It's not CGI, or maybe there's a little bit of CGI, but like she's an actual contortionist.
I think the CGI was mostly just to show the power. I think she was physically contorting herself in that way.
Yeah.
And like it was credited as Soul Dom, all bones broken.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we understand that now.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow. Because it was very convincing.
It was. I was very much like, holy heck. Also, as that scene happens, you can see that her damane is also like just curled up in like the fetal position.
Yeah.
Really driving home that like whatever happens to a soul dom happens to a damane like twice over.
Yeah.
At least like in terms of what they feel. So she does that. She either burns the face or puts boils on the face of one of the other soul dom. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because she is collared. So they have yet another Aes Sedai.
I hope she escapes. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I want her to.
Yeah.
I hope so too. She was asking her warder to kill her when the Domine kills her warder, which I was just like, oh my god, this is so sad.
Traumatic.
Yeah, it was.
Like much of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Early on in this episode, there's some interesting stuff going on with Lanfear and Liandrin. Liandrin is back in TarValon. She's visited her son, and Lanfear shows up out of the blue. Liandrin throws a fireball at her, and Lanfear's like, nah.
Just bats it away like a fly.
And then, like, proceeds to do quite possibly the strangest recruiting tactic I've ever seen in my life.
She kills.
Yeah, she kills Liandrin's son in front of her while talking about the reason that Liandrin's son ever existed, which is that Liandrin was forced as a child bride. Presumably that's where her son came from.
Mm-hmm.
And like talks about how like Liandrin swore her oaths to the dark to keep her son alive.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a shackle. He's holding her back. And so like Lanfear is going to quote unquote set Liandrin free to really serve the dark in all ways by getting rid of her son. And Lanfear's also like, why do you serve Ishamael? He's a guy. You hate men. And I'm like, is she going to serve you? though? You murdered her son.
I mean, she was also struggling because she could see that he was suffering. Because this is now why she doesn't know how long she's been keeping the secret. She's been keeping him artificially alive for 80 or 90 years. So he's probably 200 years old at this point.
That does make some sense. I cut her a little bit more slack.
Yeah, so, and he's not quite really alive. Like, he's not barely alive, but not really. So in some ways it's a mercy. Like, she couldn't do it herself.
Yeah, but she doesn't seem thrilled.
I mean, Lanfear certainly thinks it's a mercy.
Lanfear thinks a lot of things, but I don't think mercy is one of them.
Yeah. Lanfear has some questionable methods and motives.
She may use the word mercy, but I don't believe that's what she thinks.
I do kind of wonder if this is going to set us up for Liandrin eventually following Moghedien, because she's going to be like, well, you're a woman, and you're a female Forsaken, and you're not Grendel, and you also didn't kill my son. So,
Yeah.
like, maybe Lanfear is just, like, doing Moghedien a favor here, because she thinks Moghedien is incompetent. We get more Forsaken fun a little later, where Rand has another dream sequence that he's killed all of his friends, courtesy of Ishamael, thanks Ishamael. And Lanfear, who had told Rand earlier, like, oh, I've been keeping Ishamael out of your dreams, shows up and banishes him and calls Ishamael Ishi.
Yes.
Which is like what I have always called Ishamael if I didn't want to type his full name.
Same. Like, I've even said it on the podcast. I've been calling him Ishi.
Yeah, like I was like, this is canon.
Obviously, they listen to the podcast. Lanfear listens to the podcast.
Obviously. Yep. I firmly believe that at least one member of the podcast, or not of the podcast, is of the writing crew is a Tumblr girlie. Or like deeply steeped in the Wheel of Time fandom. Because this was the funniest moment of this episode to me. It was her being like, Ishi, darling, go away. And like banishing him. I was like, these two are such old frenemies to lovers to frenemies again.
Mhm.
Like, it's so funny. Lanfear and Rand go to Egwene in the dream world, and Rand sees Egwene as a Domine and like in the cell looking real rough. But right before he can touch her face, Lanfear is like, and nope. This is like the closest to crazy ex-girlfriend that she gets.
So far.
So far, she's like, no.
I mean, what was Rand expecting, though?
He expected Egwene in the tower. Like, I too would be terrified.
No. I don't mean specifically with regards to Egwene's situation. Like, obviously, he was not expecting that. But like, if he asks his current girlfriend to take him to his ex-girlfriend, who he has said that he still has feelings for, and then he finds that she's in a bad situation and tries to help, like, I'm not trying to justify Lanfear, but also Lanfear is the crazy ex-girlfriend. Like, of course she's not going to react well to seeing Rand have feelings for someone else. Like, she's heard about that, but this is the first time that she's actually been confronted with it. So,
and like, if anything, Rand has sort of like in the show been like, I don't care about Egwene. Like, he told Lanfear that Lanfear's the first woman who's ever seen him as a man. Still irritated about that. And like, he's like, I love you to Lanfear. So like, if anything, I'm more sympathetic to Lanfear being like, no, absolutely not. Not with this girl who's like your ex.
yeah.
Who never saw you as a man despite banging you for at least a year. Like, just wild stuff from Rand from episode 4. But whatever, we've talked about that at length. This ultimately does work towards Lanfear's plan, though, because Rand gets incredibly upset about how Egwene is looking, just like we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And he demands that Lanfear tell him where Egwene is and says that he will do anything for that information. And then we cut away, so we don't know what Lanfear extracts from him, but he is convinced that he needs to go to Falm. He needs to rescue Egwene from Ishamael's clutches, and he is on his way to do just that when he runs into Matt in the foregate, and it's such a delight.
Yeah, like he walks past and he hears Matt's voice, and he does that double take, and it's just so cute.
It's so cute
to watch them come back together like old friends.
I forgot before that Rand initially goes to Logain because he wants Logain to teach him.
Oh yes.
Yeah, which this scene doesn't. This is like really what I mean though. Like the scene. What is the purpose of this scene?
I honestly don't remember what he said. Like, did Logain agree to it? I can't remember.
Not really. All that happens is that Rand Logain teaches Rand how to seize the source instead of surrendering to the source.
Right. But he pulls him.
Yeah, he gets a lot of spirit, and actually looks like a raging sun, which maybe Logain can actually see, and we can have that dialogue actually make sense. That's like all that happens in that scene, and then we get to Rand going through the foregate and finding Matt.
I think that's an important scene, though, because if we expect to see Rand try to use the power or successfully use the power in Falm, he has to have learned it somewhere. And this shows us where he learns how to do at least some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, could it have been more effective? Sure. But was there a point? I think there was a point to it.
Like, I want to see Logain, if we are going to continue to use Logain in this way, I want to actually see Logain teach Rand something concrete about channeling beyond seizing the one power.
I think Logain has been underutilized so far. Like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when they have Alvaro Morte who's killing the game as Logain, doing an incredible job. I'm like, we need a scene where Rand actually like learns a weave or something from Logain. Like, yes, Logain can't channel, but he can be like, try to kind of like what Rena does with Egwene later, like grab some fire, grab some earth, blow up part of this courtyard. Okay, you're good, kid. Bye. Like, that's what I wanted from that scene. Like, that it felt again like we cut away from like the meat of that conversation, and then we just cut to Rand walking away. I'm like, oh, okay, so you learned how to seize sighting, and then got really bothered and left. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. He does also say something about how he has enough power that he could
Yeah, he's like, you can do anything with this much power.
Which isn't entirely true, but
But future Rand is going to try.
he's gonna try. I think he's a little bit more.
Yep. But back to the best part of this episode, which is Rand and Matt being together. They are so cute together. Like, oh my God. Matt is immediately like, where's your hair? You look terrible.
I know.
Which I don't think Rand looks terrible. I think Rand looks great. But if negging friends is Matt's love language, I'm not going to argue with it.
It does really scan. Like,
Yep.
That's Matt.
That's very much Matt. Matt and Rand go drinking together, and like genuinely, if the entire rest of the episode had just been the two of them hanging out, I would have loved that. I would have been told. I know I was like, what are we doing? I don't care. This is my one exception, but like, I want the two of these boys hanging out forever and ever. I want the Emmonsfield Five back together. Like, I want to see them hanging out more. I love them so much. Later on, they are drinking together, and like Rand has clearly told Matt about like being the Dragon Reborn and like fighting Ishamael and like fighting the Dark One, and Matt's just like, that's crazy, dude. Like, this is all nuts. They decide that they are going to go to Falm to rescue Egwene. They're definitely going to go together. Matt is like, nope, I will definitely meet you at the gate in an hour. Like, I'll definitely be there.
Definitely. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Yep. He's just got to go break a woman's heart, which, Matt, come on. You're not going to get into men's pants. Stop trying. Like, she's not into you, dude.
Yeah.
And Matt says that he needs to stick with Rand to keep him humble, essentially. And then he does the cutest, he like puts his hand on Rand's shoulder and is like, Dragon Reborn. And it's so cute.
I know.
Donalfin is doing an incredible job with Matt. I need more Matt scenes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But speaking of men, before this, dear Ishi, dear Ishi comes to talk to her and says she just has to do one more thing and then she'll be free of her power forever. You know, she's not happy because she's already done the thing he said she needed to do. Like, come on, men, the father of lies.
He introduced himself as the father of lies and was then like, let's make a deal. Come on, girl.
Yeah. So she needs to make sure that Matt leaves with Rand and then she'll be free forever. And she's not happy about that. So when Matt goes back to the inn, gosh, that dirty, nasty inn, like, just looking at those beds made my skin crawl. Oh my God. And Min is drinking, like, heavy. And they have the cutest scene where he's trying to tell her that he's breaking up with her and leaving. And she's like, yeah, I know. You can't go with Rand. And he gets all upset because, you know, she's been lying to him. And the whole thing just breaks my heart because, like, he doesn't want to believe that he's going to kill Rand. He's upset that she's lied to him and been scheming with other people, and she can't explain to him what's going on. And yeah, that whole scene was just rough.
Yeah, it was. It has one of my favorite lines from this episode too, where she's like, if you love him, you cannot go with him. And I was like, Matt and Rand is a ship confirmed. God. I know they mean platonic love. I know. I don't care.
Min ships it.
I'm into it. And like, clearly Matt does love Rand because he does choose not to go with him. He sees Rand waiting at the gate and is like, I can't. Like, if I go with him, he'll be in danger. Min said so.
But he's gonna go. I don't know. I guess we'll figure that out. We'll see how it happens. He's got to get there.
Someone's gonna pick him up and put him in front of that dagger because we've seen that in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, he is gonna face that dagger. Maybe it's in the dream world, but I have a feeling it's in real life.
Yeah. I'm guessing maybe Padan Fane has something to do with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and if it's Padan Fane, then it has to be in Falm. Yeah. Also, I mean, Rand doesn't even leave Carhian. He attempts to leave Carhian, and like Lan and Alana pop out of nowhere and are like, you can't leave. Anytime Alana and Rand interact together, this is the first time it's happened, but my skin started to crawl. I was like, no, these two characters may not interact in any capacity. Get them off of my screen together.
So we've kind of skipped around all of that because of things, but that whole plot line with Lan and Alana and Maxim and Ivan at a temple to the Forsaken, Is that what it was?
That's what they said it was. A temple seems like a stretch. It was a bunch of Forsaken towers, or not towers, statues in like a circle together.
Yeah.
I guess you can have an open air temple. I don't know. Who am I to judge?
Or it was probably ruins.
I mean, I also feel like it's quite possible that they don't actually know what it was.
Oh.
Or that what they're saying it was isn't actually the truth. Because lots of time has passed. So just because they think it was one thing doesn't mean it actually was.
Maybe it was just like Paradisian.
True. It could have been like something to the 100 Companions.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was looking at those statues today and I was like, those don't look like the same Forsaken statues that we saw. But
yeah,
we do know that the Forsaken are worshipped in a like, if I worship you, you'll leave me alone capacity in the show canon.
Yeah.
So it could totally be a temple, but it was a choice, which literally is what Lan says when he's like, a temple to the Forsaken. Interesting choice, which was exactly what I was typing in my notes, and I'd forgotten that was what the dialogue was. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and Maxim's just like, shelter, shelter, and then like glares at him like, like, you're not being subtle at all here.
Alanna, Yvonne, and Maxim are so suspicious acting in this scene. Like they're like the three of them are so suspicious of Lan, and Lan is so suspicious of them that like.
Well, because they're acting like weirdos.
They are. Like my husband was like, because my husband knows I hate Alanna. He doesn't know why, but he knows I hate Alanna. And he's like, is Alanna a dark friend? Like, are they all dark friends? Like, what's going on here? Like, he was so confused, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
But Lan's trying to find the Amerlin, and Alana's like, why do you need to find the Amerlin? And he's like, I need permission to go back to TarValon. It's just so weird.
Yep. Which Alana's like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. She didn't banish you.
Yep. And right as Lan is like going to fight his way through Yvonne and Maxim, a fight I think that Lan could win.
I do too.
Alanna is like, nah, and ties him up with air and is like, tell us everything. Like, what is going on with you? And Lan is like, oh, it's about Moiraine. We found the Dragon Reborn. And my big question here is, Moiraine, you didn't tell Lan that you told Swan? Come on. Like, Moiraine, I know you wanted your Aes Sedai could keep their secrets or whatever. Maybe bring your best boy in on the plan a little bit more. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know. Was he saying he was going to tell her that specifically? Because they ask him what it was, and the only thing he says is, we found the Dragon Reborn.
He says it's about Moiraine, and then he says we found the Dragon Reborn. So
right, but does it necessarily mean that he needs to talk to the Amerlin about finding him, or does he need to talk to the Amerlin about Moiraine because they found the Dragon Reborn? And he, it's about that. It's not necessarily that he needs to tell her about it, but that's why he needs to talk to her. And he's involved in this plot and wants to talk to her about it.
I agree that the dialogue is unclear. Yet another scene where I wish we had stayed for maybe in this conversation for maybe more than just 10 more seconds.
Yeah, I feel like we'll get a lot more of it next week, because obviously they're going to goose step Rand back to Swan.
Yeah.
Who is now in Carrion.
Yep. She gets, which it's good that she's in Carrion. Moiraine is writing a letter to Swan, and she writes, we see the translation of the very cool Wheel of Time lettering.
Yeah.
That she has been stilled. And I'm like, is this proof?
I don't think it's proof. I think that just means she thinks she's been stilled, which we know.
Agreed.
We don't know.
Yes. Okay. We are going to continue to live in hope.
No, you're going to keep living in delusion. I think she's been stilled. She's going to fall through that doorway, and one of her things is going to get her power back when she comes back.
I like that as a resolution to this Moiraine being stilled nonsense. I love that. And if that is what they do, yes, I am here for it. Also, in an unpowered fight, an unpowered Moiraine who still takes down Lanfear twice is gonna make her so badass.
Yeah.
I hope they keep that fight, or the spiritual successor to that fight in some way. That fight is one of my favorite fights in all of the series.
But
Barthanas
also,
brings Moiraine. Oh yeah.
What I was gonna say. Barthanas bringing her the sandwich. He's so cute.
He's just trying. He's really trying.
He's precious and needs to be protected at all cost, even if he is a dark friend. I don't care. His actor is precious, and he's adorable.
He's not giving me dark friend energy in the show.
In the show, no, but I mean, canonically, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
So
It's gonna be a hard turn, but because he brings in the sandwich and he's like, do you remember how you used to tell me I made the best sandwiches because I put butter on both sides of the bread? And she's like, this is so precious. And Maureen is just like, just leave it.
Maureen is so grumpy at him, and I feel so bad for him.
Yep. Well, on Ver, Mama bears the heck out of this after seeing how grumpy Moiraine is. On Ver, like, she's like kind of spying on their conversation. Is like, oh, okay, this could be cute. I'm gonna let it lie. And then as soon as she sees how upset Barthanas is, she's like, nah. Like, busts open that door, goes up to Moiraine and is like, how dare you? Like, why does everyone in the family like you? Like, you're not worth it. Like, why didn't you even come and see us when our dad died? Probably because she was hunting the dragon reborn, but she can't tell Anver that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Anver attempts to kick Moiraine out of the house, and Moiraine is just like, I'm the older sister. This is actually my house, so suck it.
Right? Like, damn. She's like, I'm older than you. I could kick you out.
Yep. And Anver has no good comeback for that, and so leaves. And Moiraine goes back to writing her letter, and we see that she has received, I think it's like at least 3, but presumably like many, many letters from Swan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Anver did have one thing to say. Like, she called her mother.
Ooh, true.
She's like, you're nothing like him. You are just like our mother. And then leaves. And like, I don't know anything about their mother, but I can imagine that it is not a good thing.
Yep. It's ice cold.
Didn't sound like a compliment.
No, it did not sound like a compliment at all.
Nope. We cut to Swan, who is riding in her carriage, and it looks like she is sitting literally on the Amerlin seat throne in the carriage. So I kind of think that they take the Amerlin seat wherever Swan goes, which is incredible.
Yes.
Just that thing does not look light, but they make, I mean, they have the one power, so I guess it's fine. But that is the funniest detail. And also in the episode preview for episode 7, we see her sitting in the Amerlin seat in Carrion, which means that, like, yes, like she does literally take it with her. Like, what a flex. You know what? I am the Amerlin seat, and you can prove it. I can prove it to you because here is my throne that I take with me everywhere I go. Here is the Amerlin seat mobile.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And I thought when she hears a horse approaching the carriage at a great speed and she embraces the power and it weaves this like crown around her, I don't know if that was like some sort of protection or what, but it just looks so cool because like the power comes in and I guess it's spirit. I can't remember what the colors are.
I think it's air.
Is it air?
Well, they were daggers, weren't they? Like, she could have used them to kill people.
Oh, was it?
Or was it a crown of swords?
It was like a crown of swords. It did look like a crown of swords. Or daggers, really.
Swords, daggers, pointy things you stick in other people.
Yeah.
It's more than it's a book title.
Okay.
It was a crown of swords that made a path of daggers.
Yeah, it's true.
I historically on this podcast don't know book titles.
Yes.
Yes.
This is also very similar to the weave that Moiraine attempts to use against Ashamael in the end of episode 8. There was a great gift set that I saw that's like put the two weaves side by side. It looks very similar. So I'm like, is this like a girl? Like, obviously making a sword out of air, whatever. We've seen Lanfear do that, like not Lanfear, Leandrin do that. Presumably every Aes Sedai can do that at some point. But like to have it be like floating and have there be several of them, maybe this is a Moiraine and Swan special.
Maybe. But also it just looked like the whole crown. Like it was echoing the Amerlin seat behind her.
It was very cool. Queen knew what she was doing.
Yes. But she didn't need to because it was Lan.
It's Lan. He shows up and he presumably tells her something about Moiraine. I can't remember if we see another Lan and Swan scene before Swan shows up in Carrion.
No, because the next thing we don't think we see Lan again until the end.
Until the end of the episode where he stops.
Rand.
Yeah. But the next we see of Swan is she is in Carrion and she has called 14 Aes Sedai to come with her. An interesting number. And we see Leandrin, we see, what is her name?
Yaska.
Yaska, and like Varen is there. Basically every Aes Sedai of consequence who we have seen in the show.
Was Varen there? I didn't.
She's there in the. I currently have the episode pulled up, and she is there in the X-ray.
Okay, I remember thinking I should go back and look, but I did not.
Leanne is there.
Yeah, definitely saw Leanne and Yasika and Leandrin, obviously.
Yeah. So why do we think she's called 14 Aes Sedai?
That's a good question. If one of them is one that she's going to accuse of something, and she needs 13 to do something to them.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, Alana is there, and I'm pretty sure Joya is there as well, but only because we see her in the episode preview for episode 7.
Well, yeah, Alana was there because of Rand. Oh, Lan. Why did I say Rand?
They are all there, presumably because of Rand. I have a feeling that Lan is like,
yeah,
we found the Dragon Reborn. Moiraine is probably in Kyrian. The Dragon Reborn is probably in Kyrian.
Oh, the 13 Aes Sedai would be to control Rand.
Yes, but she called 14, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, maybe she doesn't trust one of them.
Fair, she has at least 2 members of the Black. Actually, she's got like 3 members of the Black Ajah here. So,
Which 3?
I mean, if I say there's going to be a lot
Wait,
of
I know
spoilers.
2, but I'm not.
Joya's also there.
Oh,
Yeah.
You did say Joya was there.
Joya's there. Leandrin's there. A 3rd member of the Black Ajah is there.
Mm-hmm. Half member.
Yeah. You know, all the Ajahs are represented, presumably.
Yes, all 8.
Yep, all 8. All the main 7 and then that secret 8th one.
Anyway, so
The only other thing we haven't talked about is everything involving Egwene that wasn't the cold open, because
yeah,
I don't want to.
yeah, I felt like it's going to be a lot, and I wanted to talk about it all at once.
Agreed, because I don't think I could do the emotional whiplash of talking about it and then talking about something else, and then talking about it and then talking about something else. After the cold open, the next time we see Egwene is this really well done dream sequence, or imaginary sequence, like something in her mind, where she gets a jug of water and beats Renna with it, and then like punches her in the face over and over again, presumably killing Renna. And then it immediately cuts to like Egwene in reality with Renna coming in the door and her trying to go for the jug, and the fact that like she can't. Again, more incredible acting from Madden here. And like she can't, and she's like forced all the way back because of how much like intense pain she is being subjected to.
Mm-hmm.
Renna is like really clear that like Egwene can't hurt her, like, and she's not going to be able to touch anything that she considers a weapon.
Yeah.
She's like, you're not a person anymore, like you're a demone, you're not a woman.
Yeah, the way that Rena talks about that is just, it's like so casual. Like she's talking to a dog, and it's almost disgusting. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It gives me chills every time she did it.
Yeah, it's a very dehumanizing type of condescension. Like, she doesn't think of Egwene as like lower than her. She literally doesn't think of Egwene as a human being.
No.
It's terrifying. After Renna leaves, we see Egwene look out of her cell window and look at this tree, and we zoom out and we see that she is indeed in the kennels, as we knew, that there's a bunch of Soldam and Domine walking around, and like she's clearly in this like the hub of like Shan-Chan power and control. After Rand shows up in Egwene's dreams, she wakes up and she thinks she's losing it. She like, there's like some really good shots of her being like, get it together, like you're losing it. And every time we cut back to Egwene in this episode, she's looking worse and worse. Like time is passing, and like her torture is like just getting worse and worse. Like at first it's like just like a bloody nose, then her cheek starts to get cut up.
Yeah.
Eventually like one of her eyes is like fully bloodshot.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very clear that like as time is passing, like Egwene is being subjected to like worse and worse tortures.
Well, and most of them are likely self-inflicted, because she hasn't had anything to eat or drink, because she views the pitcher of water as a weapon. She can't touch it. And every time she tries to touch it, she's being tortured by her own efforts.
Yeah, that's the most horrifying part about the Adam is like, or Adam is like, they don't physically need to do anything to you. Like all of the torture, most of the torture is going.
No one Not even the TarValon Talks team is ready to talk about this one. We're bracing ourselves to discuss episode 6 of season 2 of The Wheel of Time. We're going to start this intro off with a trigger warning. The discussion of episode 6 will include mention of psychological and physical torture. And as always, we do have a spoiler warning. This episode will contain spoilers for both the TV show and the book series. So here it goes. Here we have Doll, Dianna, and Fenya diving into episode 6 of season 2 of The Wheel of Time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a hard one. That was really, really hard to watch.
Yeah. Are we all doing okay after that episode?
Yeah, I think so.
I actually think that dark as it is, and it is a really dark episode, it's my favorite so far this season.
It was really well done.
Yeah, like it was incredibly well acted. It felt very cohesive in a way that some of the earlier seasons, some of the earlier episodes haven't to me. And it was like I couldn't look away. I mean, it kind of partially in a horrifying kind of way, but also just in a really compelling TV show kind of way.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree with that. Like, so I've in preparation for this podcast finally got myself to rewatch the episode like right before we were recording. And like a lot of this episode is like little flashes of scenes. I think that there's like some really good moments. Everything with Egwene and Rena in this episode is incredible. Everything with Rand and Lanfear and Matt is incredible. And I have some questions about what's going on with Moiraine and Lan. It was great to see Swan again. I'm just gonna like review everything up at the top. It was great to see Swan again. I still have questions about that though. Like there are parts of this episode that are super amazing, and then there are parts of this episode that do feel still pretty disjointed to me, and kind of like I thought we were gonna have more movement on this plotline by episode 6 of an 8-episode season. But that is my high level thought.
I think that's fair.
Also, as an Egwene fangirl, like unapologetic Egwene fangirl, she is maybe my favorite character in the book. She is definitely my favorite female character. Like, I knew that this part was going to be hard, but oh my god, this episode was hard to watch. Like, I was in tears by the end of it.
The end broke me.
Yeah.
So, do we want to start at the top then?
Yeah, which is not a fun place to start, because we start just right away with Rena, the Soul Dom, dragging Egwene into her Damane cell and like telling Egwene how being a Domine works. She can't hurt Rena. She can't remove the Autumn. She is not a person anymore. Although Rena is so kind and will let Egwene keep her name, unlike in the books.
I kept waiting for her to take it away as a punishment.
Me too.
I think it makes sense as a change, though. It makes sense for Egwene to keep her name in the show, because for non-book readers who are watching it, like they're just going to get confused by all of these new names showing up. I know I would. So I think that's an easy thing that they can just excise.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it. I felt like this episode did a really good job of showing like how horrific being a Damane is for people from the Westlands, and like in particular for Egwene. And like, yes, taking her name would have been like an additional part of that, but it doesn't feel like it was necessary for like the episode to drive home its point. So I agree with you. I'm not like, how dare they make her keep her name?
Yeah. No.
I also liked that like it showed that Rena was a kind Soul Dom, and that like this is what kindness looks like from a Soul Dom perspective.
That actor that plays Rena, like, she legit looked psycho. Mm-hmm. And when she was talking about how...
Sorry, quick interruption. I think that they use they, them pronouns.
She uses she, they, he. I checked their Instagram
Okay.
Earlier today or yesterday.
Thank you. They just had this completely deranged look on their face when speaking about how, unlike other Soul Doms, I believe we should cultivate our friendship. And it was almost, God, that's almost scarier than someone who is outright mean.
Yeah.
I mean, Rena thinks that they're being kind.
Yeah.
Like, Rena thinks that this is a totally normal thing to do, and that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the actors, Celia Mendez-Jones, which is who I really wanted them to have play Galad. But this is
that would have
fine.
been amazing.
This is a very different role, but this is also fine. But they and Madeline Madden make this episode work. Like their chemistry, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And like
Well, it is chemistry.
it is a type of chemistry, like the way that they play off of each other in every scene, that like Renna is like very like at first very like calm, very kind, incredibly condescending because she doesn't see Egwene as human.
No.
And then Madden like standing up, but also like her physical acting every time she's being tortured by the Adon like was incredible. Like give Madeline Madden an Emmy nom / award for this episode.
Honestly, yes.
She deserves it. Sheila Mendez-Jones deserves, like, the two of them carry this episode. And if this episode hadn't landed, like this season I don't think works.
Yeah, this driving home the just how cruel the Shan are. Like we've seen their casual cruelty with, just wiping out villages and throwing tsunamis at little girls. But the hierarchy of people all the way down to where the Domine are not human and the high blood are gods. Like it kind of gives you that gravitas of all of it in a way that if this hadn't landed, I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to like piggyback off of that, jumping somewhat ahead in the episode, like we see that also at Lady Sarath's party where Loyal and Ingtar are like serving her guests. She's having this like party in her rooms because she still can't go to court. And like she is so like she has full command and full control over that room and over Loyal and Ingtar, and she's like showing off that she has like an Ogier servant and like makes him tree sing like essentially as like a party trick.
Yeah.
Which sort of backfires on her because like that party seemed very lively, like it was very funny, like they were like everyone was like laughing and blah blah blah. And then when he starts tree singing, like at first they're laughing at him, but it's a very moving thing to see someone sing at like a bonsai tree and like see it grow.
Especially considering that he, unlike probably the Ogier from Shan, who grew up in that system, Loyal obviously holds this tree singing as sacred and still holds on to those old ways, and it was hurting him so much to do it.
Yeah, it really, Sarath miscalculated, brought down the vibes of her party for sure. And she notices that and she like claps and she's like, that's enough, but like, haha, this is so funny. And then she starts joking about how she's going to give the sung tree to Turok and like sends Loyal off. And as Ingtar and Loyal are walking away, Ingtar is like, I found the horn. It's like barely guarded. They clearly no one in the society thinks that they would steal it from Turok. And he's like perplexed by that. But the kennels where Egwene is kept and the other demonic are incredibly well guarded. And so Ingtar seems to think that like it's not worth saving her, which makes sense. Ingtar has like maybe seen her for like 1 second.
I mean, strategically, he's probably right.
Yeah.
Emotionally, no.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't agree with this. And I'm on Loyal. Loyal is like, we are getting Egwene.
On a broader scale, it is important to save her, but they don't know that.
They don't know that. Yeah.
They're not omniscient. They don't know how important she is to the last battle.
Based on the information they have at hand.
Right. And based on the information they have on hand, she's just a young girl who would have been an Aes Sedai.
Also, of course, Ingtar wouldn't want to save her because that would go against Ishamael.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oops.
I like completely forgot about that until just now. Like
forgot where his loyalties lie.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes total sense that he is not interested at all in saving her. Speaking of the Forsaken. So one thing I really appreciate about this episode is that most of the time when it's like, here's this really hard scene with Egwene, it is then followed up by a scene that is in some ways full of joy. And so we cut from Egwene being like the initial torture scene with her to Rand being tied to the wheel and Lanfear and just more shirtless Yosha, please and thank you. That man looks so good.
Oh, okay. I was like, where's the joy in this scene?
Oh, the joy is in how stunning and sexy they both are. They look so good.
That throne that Lanfear was sitting on and the headdress and everything, I can't really
take Lanfear seriously in that outfit.
I hate the hat.
So much eye makeup.
I hate the hat. I think everything else looks great. The hat makes her look like she's wearing like a baby bonnet. I'm like, girl, this isn't quite the vibe I think that you're going for.
See, to me, I think it looks more like Mucha. Am I saying that name right? The artist, with the goddess,
I don't think I know it.
Clearly, none of us are art people.
Yeah, no.
You know what they are, like, if you've seen them. It's Alphonse Mucha. He was the Art Nouveau.
Okay, I do actually know that name, to be fair.
I do not, because I am very much not an art person.
I'm gonna link to one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you found it?
I do know these. I did not know that was this artist.
Yeah, like the whole thing, just like the Art Nouveau and the hair and the crown, even the headdress kind of looks like one of the backdrops, and it all just screams Mucha Girl.
It would be very evocative of the season 1 opener, or like opening sequence, because at least I think all of the Aes Sedai have a sort of like halo thing around their heads in that opening sequence. But I mean, this just doesn't look like a halo to me. It doesn't look like a halo. It doesn't look like horns. It doesn't look like a crown. Like, it's really giving baby bonnet, which on top of like a full dominatrix outfit is just confusing.
It's an odd choice.
Yeah.
Not really seeing baby bonnet. I'm still seeing like Elizabethan head bonnet, not baby bonnet.
I think it's because it's like it goes forward.
Maybe.
Kind of baby bonnet-esque. But I also think that Elizabethan bonnets look like baby bonnets, so glad we moved away from that fashion.
What it kind of reminds me of, actually, is classic Doctor Who Time Lord wear. Because
the most Fenya take I have ever heard.
It is. But the classic Who Time Lords have these big collars. Granted, most of them are red. I don't think they go for black necessarily, but that's what it reminds me of.
If this was a collar, that would totally work for me, because then that would be like Elizabethan, like, collar crown type of situation. But it just, I don't know. Anyway.
Okay.
Lanfear's gonna haunt my dreams tonight because I critiqued her fashion sense. She like takes Rand off of the wheel. She unties him from the wheel. No, thank you. Please put him back, so that he can trust her, or to like show him that he can trust her. And then she like lays out basically like Ishamael's whole plan to him. She's like, "Oh, your friends aren't here. You isolated yourself from them, and now he's gonna kidnap that, or take all of them and turn them to the dark side." And like, he is like, well, tell me where they are. Like, help me. And she calls him Luz. Ugh.
It's his name. But also, Fenya just posted a picture of the Time Lord, and she's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, are Time Lords that different from the Forsaken when you really think about it? Like,
No.
long-lived, can kind of, like, rebirth themselves in a way. Like, the Forsaken are just Time Lords. It's canon.
Committed war crimes.
Yeah.
Same sense of fashion.
Same sense of fashion.
Oh, incredible.
Anyway, back to Rand.
Back to you. Yeah. Rand, shirtless Rand, like, stepping up to Lanfear, like, definitely seems to, like, get her going. She's like, oh, okay, like, I can work with this. And to which I say, go get it, girl. Like, I want to really emphasize that I truly cannot stand Lanfear in the books. And for all of the people who are like, oh, I really hated Leandrin in the books, but I like her in the show, that is my journey with Lanfear. Like, I'm really liking her in the show. I'm really loving the way that Natasha O'Keeffe is playing her. Like, she's slightly more subtle. She's slightly more, like, seems sort of on Rand's side.
A little more competent.
Very much more competent. It's hard to get less competent than Lanfear in the books. And also just like really not giving crazy ex-girlfriend energy in the same way. Yet. But I mean, Lanfear in the show got Rand to fall in love with her. Like, that's way better than Lanfear in the books ever did.
Yeah.
Once Rand has Lanfear's whole plan, presumably, he wakes up and tells Moiraine that he has to leave to protect her from Lanfear. And like, also one of the things that Lanfear did in the dream world is she told Rand that like basically kind of Moiraine's entire plan of like bringing Logan to Cairhien, and like, you know, she's like, why are you in Cairhien now? Like, you've still been doing everything that she wants you to do. And so he seems like he's simultaneously trying to protect Moiraine, but also is incredibly suspicious of her.
Mm-hmm.
And so he like calls her out for all of her continued suspicious behavior towards him, and then leaves. And we cut to Matt and Min, who are in the foregate. There's more Trolloc puppets, which is very cool.
Yeah, that the whole carnival thing is going on, and you see the puppets and everything, and lots of drunk revelers dancing around. They've really done a good job of making the foregate like look good.
Yeah, they're really like trying to keep the sense of the foregate from the books and like bring it into the show and really make it real. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So now we've like Min and Matt are in Cairhien, and Rand is in Cairhien. So like soon they will probably link up.
Soon.
I realize in looking at my notes that this